Okay. Yeah.
So a location is like a drugstore or something. Like, I
Yes.
don't know what drugstores you have, but like Walgreens is one of the big ones. Like you have a version of that, I think. I forget what it's called. Walgreens is on the corner. It's located like in a physical location. So that Walgreens is located in a city or a town. It's located in a county, and it's located in the state. So if a state has like 6% tax, that tax either applies to labor or parts or both.
Mm-hmm.
And that everything that happens at that store has to have that state tax on its invoice.
Mm-hmm.
If the county has a tax, it's either for labor or parts. That applies to everything that happens on that store.
Okay. Can it
Yep.
be for both county tax?
For both what?
So we said like tax rates can be for labor, parts, or both, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
county tax can also be like for both at the same time, right? We don't have to specify different tax rates. Okay.
Correct. So every tax rate is a percentage, and it's for labor, parts, or both.
Mm-hmm.
And so then the city could have a tax rate that's for labor, parts, or both. And so if the Walgreens is located in a place that has all three of those, then 3 tax rates are associated with that particular store. And on the invoice, it would really have 3 tax lines, and they would report out separately. And so then when on the invoice, and then when we report out with those tax reports, it would show, you know, in the tax report is probably by state. So it would show in Florida, here's the Florida state tax for all the work done in Florida for this either month or year or quarter or whatever we're reporting. Here's all the different county rates and how much applies to each one. And here's all the different city rates listed and how much applies to each one.
Okay, but of course, so we have 3 taxes we could potentially apply. So that's county, zip code, or city. State tax is not a 4th one, right? Like we can just say implicitly all these are state tax, but it does not ever count as a 4th tax.
No, there would be 4, I guess. So the city and zip code tax is kind of the same. Like zip code is just another way to slice and dice it, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So like instead of saying city, you could say zip code. I don't know that. There's probably a case where that applies, which is why we should account for it. But it would be.
So they were mutually exclusive, right?
No.
In some situations.
Well, I guess you couldn't probably have a city and a zip code. They're probably an either or there, but like I wouldn't build it that way because like let's just build it so they can apply anything.
Yeah. We can keep it.
If a zip code tax rate made more sense than doing a city one, you know, we could go that route.
So is there a need for me, for example, to define, let's say, city, county, and zip code tax rate, and then plus separate whole state tax?
Yes.
Okay, now next question would be like...
State is the most common. Almost every state has a tax. There are a few states that do not, but most states have a state tax. So that's the most common. It is less common to have a county or city tax, although that happens. And so so that's the way we want to do it. In the QuickBooks file that you have, which you may have not sort of delved into, these tax rates are rolled into tax groups. And that's where it gets complicated as fuck. So like they have a group that applies to a location, and they sort of tricked out QuickBooks to calculate the tax the way they want it. And it's not a good way to do it. And that's why we want to apply a list of rates that apply to a location to that location. So instead of taking the rates, putting them in a group and assigning the group to a location, we just want to assign the rates directly to location so that if anything changes on the rates at any point, it just automatically continues to work.
Do you guys want any option of having that a possibility in the future? Should we think about, you know, that being able to add like tax groups and just add a tax group to location?
No, I don't think so. I think it's going to be all individual. Now, the one thing that like So there's all these rates. There's going to be like probably thousands of rates. And you can look in the QuickBooks file, look at how many rates are in there. That's what we're talking about. Like it's the same number of rates. And so we've got all these rates. They all have to get associated with the location. So what we're going to try to do is extract from that QuickBooks file, like the way they've sort of tricked it out. We're going to try to match up the rates to the locations without manually.
We might be able to extract data for taxes from QuickBooks. It's a good thing that we opted for this web connector SOAP service kind of thing, which basically has a bunch of functionalities which are potentially hard to deal with. It depends on how this data is organized in QuickBooks and our system. I just don't want you to think that it might be trivial, but yeah, there's definitely, I think we may be able to do something with tax rates. I might need to research what exactly can you pull out from the system, but I think on some level we should be able to sort of pull most of the data from QuickBooks itself.
So just keep in mind, like we don't have to pull the tax rates in an automated way, right? Like we're talking about a manual, like open the QuickBooks file, you can export the data, pull the data out. Like once we put the data in our system, we never have to pull tax shit out of QuickBooks again. We're just putting stuff into QuickBooks at that point.
I see. Okay, so we don't have to necessarily do it through the web connector, although we should probably go.
So the web connector, like the whole point of doing this is that we simplify the web connector. So we want the invoice to be 100% accurate in our system. And then when they hit that button, import to QuickBooks, it moves the 100% accurate invoice, including the tax rates, into QuickBooks, you know, with all the correct separate line items. And then they don't have to mess with it. So we can have the master invoice number in our system. We can have the master tax rates, and it just works. And we can even pull the report out of our system of where they need to pay what taxes.
You're saying you want that out of this system, right?
Our system. So that's where, like, because we have the QuickBooks file like in there, and like this is a slight tangent, but it's relevant. Right now, when they set up an invoice, and you could go in and look at how they have invoices. I have not done that, but you can do that. And if you need help, like poking around in there, because like I don't know how much you've done with QuickBooks, but like
I haven't got into much details. I haven't actually opened their company file because I haven't been dealing with it specifically. I've been setting up stuff in the test environment, and I managed to finish some stuff. I can show you guys for a few minutes.
So what they do, and this is where it starts to suck. So the first line item on their invoice is the location. So based on that location, like that shouldn't be a line item on the invoice.
Yeah, it should be only like parts and labor, right?
Well, it should, like, somehow the invoice needs to be associated with a location, and they don't have a field in QuickBooks that they've set up to do that. So they've sort of tricked it out by creating an item, is what QuickBooks calls it, that is the location.
Okay.
And based on that location, then they set a tax rate group that has all those tax rates rolled in, and that's how they do it in QuickBooks.
Okay, so
it's not the right way to do it.
I agree. So we'll look into this, like we'll deal with these things, you know, part by part, so you guys can see what we have now later after we finish talking about this. But anyhow, like there's a few more also questions for me. So when it comes to tax rates and states, can a tax rate apply to different states?
No.
Okay, so it's always just associated with one state. But so let's say I have a state which has a tax rate for labor. This tax rate is just on the state level, okay? So it's neither associated with a county, zip code, or city. Now, of course, I cannot add another tax rate for labor for this state, correct?
Yes. So you could have a labor tax rate at the state level, at the county level, at the city level.
So just one for each of them. There's no like conflict where we can say like there's two counties, right, with the same name within Florida which have the same tax rate. That is impossible, right?
Impossible.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. That sounds good. Sergio,
They
do you
might
want
have
to?
the same name, but they don't have the same tax rate. And if they did, we would somehow separate them.
Okay, they can
So
have a
like
different name, right? But they,
within Florida, I don't think there's any duplicate names, but there's definitely duplicate names between states. So like there's a Oakland County, Michigan. There's an Oakland County, California.
right. But if we're talking about the specific city, we can never have like two different tax rates for pods, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So like Pontiac, Michigan, let's say it has a 2% tax rate that only applies to parks. That's it. There can't be another tax rate for Pontiac. It
Okay.
could be a county tax rate and state tax rate that gets added to that.
Okay. Well, it sounds to me so far we don't need to actually, because there's a potentially tricky thing is that we have to insert all of these. I guess you don't need that. We don't need that. It's like with all the counties and zip codes and cities, they can just manually insert these names, right? We don't have to pull that information from somewhere.
No, and like because the default, because like there's 50 states. Every state, and there's probably only 20 some that we're dealing with in this program, but we might need the others. Most states have a tax rate. There's only a couple few that don't. Most counties do not. Most cities do not. So some do. So the only ones we need to worry about are the ones that do. Like we're not putting every zip code in or every city in to have zero. Like that's not, like if there's 0%, there's no tax. We're not putting it in. We're only putting the ones in that have a tax rate. And that's what we can get out of QuickBooks, like how many that is.
Okay, so then I could pull up a location, add 10 county rates, and then later when I have an invoice for that location, do I, for example, select certain tax rates associated to that location, but only one county tax, for example, right?
One count. So if you have a location, we're going to associate with that location what tax rates apply. And so if like the state one is easy, right? It's like it's in a state has a tax rate that is the state, done. Would also add, and this is where we want to try to automate this addition. This is a one-time automation. What I don't want to do, I don't know how many locations are in their file, but let's say they have 1,000 locations they service. I don't necessarily want to go through or have you guys go through each location and manually pick which rates apply. So like if you pull that out of QuickBooks, what we do is set up all the rates in QuickBooks. So in QuickBooks, there's an item called tax rate. You can export that item and put it in Excel probably and see like, all right, I have no idea how many it is, but it's more than a few. This is how many tax rates we're dealing with. We could import something like that into our system, associate the right ones with the right states and the whole bit. And then location by location, we would associate which ones apply to that location. So at most they could have 4, which like, I think it's only going to be max 3, but potentially we'd set it up so it could be 4. So it could be state, county, city, zip code. But really it's probably not city and zip code.
Yeah, that's a part which involves exporting data from QB, take all these tax rates, then we flesh them out, right? So when we get these items from QB, let's say we get a bunch of tax rates. What else? Okay, do you know by chance what other information is contained in there?
I don't. We can check, but I think it's probably not enough. So I think it's a name and a rate. And so I think we can sort of back into which ones of those are state rates, city rates. Like if we get them all in Excel, we can probably add columns to start to get at what kind of a rate it is.
I think potentially a lot of this could be streamlined through this connector, which would result in even less work than doing it manually. So
with getting, so they're not, I don't think they're doing it the right way. So do you have their company file open by chance?
No, not at the moment.
Okay, so we can set a follow-up. I don't know if it's easy to open or not, but we could jump on a follow-up too, or if you want to do it right now, I've got time.
Okay.
So if
I
you
have
want to
it.
open it, you can screen share and I can remote control and poke around and show you. It'll give a better idea of what we're talking about.
Yeah, sure. And in the meantime, Surgeon, you can take over a little.
Yes, of course.
Hang on one
So
second. All right, go ahead, Surgeon.
okay, so as I understood you, we don't want to pre-populate cities, counties, etc., and have autocomplete text fields like we have for the states. Or do we want that?
When you're for what? Like when you're assigning a tax rate or when you're
Yeah,
adding a tax rate?
yeah, because of the tax rates. Because if we do not pre-populate it and have it like some entities in database, when someone like free inputs some city, we would maybe search by the search tax rate by the compare the names like text compare and see if there is a tax rate for that city.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Well, wait a minute. So let me see if I.
Yeah.
So you're saying if I add a location, so in that location it's gonna list tax rates. I want to add a tax rate to that location. You're saying if I start typing, should it try to match what tax rates are in there?
Okay, so are you asking me for the tax rate editor view or
No, like because
for the location form?
yeah,
Yeah, for now, well, as we understood, one state can only have one tax rate. Is that correct? Or
yes,
okay, so when we choose state, if that state has a tax rate, it's automatically applied to this location. So for now, how it's working, we have free input text fields for the city and zip codes, and we do not have that for counties. So do we want also those things to be autocomplete, like you cannot
no,
write in Mickey Mouse or something like that?
I don't think so because like the way cities are done, like I think that's a can of worms because like it could be like St. John. Then is it like ST period John or is it spelled out? Like I think we just have to let them enter whatever they want to enter. I don't think we can automatically match up a city or county to a tax rate. I think we have to manually do it once or automated. Like we do it once for every location and then we're good with it. It's not something that's going to change either. Like once the tax rate is associated, it's always associated.
Okay, great. That would answer also my next question. So is there a possibility, let's say for Michigan, there's a 6% state tax rate. We generate an invoice, create an invoice report, and then after a couple of months, the tax rate bumps up to like 10%. So when we list that tax rates report for that invoice before a couple of months before, we want that old. Is that possibility to happen, like that scenario?
No, so the rate um, will change on a certain date. So like let's say as of January 1st, the tax rate changes. Usually it would be like it's the first of the month, a lot of times the first of the year. At that point, we need to change the rate in the system, and then all invoices going forward would have the new rate. And all invoices for work done previously would have the old rate. So I guess it would be based on the service date of like when the person was out there of what tax rate that we used for that state.
Mhm. Yeah, okay, so the service date, not the time invoice was generated. Okay,
Correct.
so then that's the same. I ask that because that's the same scenario for the service notes. So we should then make like some kind of copies of tax rates to not show new tax rates for the past invoices. Okay, so
So
what's
so I think like I think that's way too complicated. My guess is that whatever the rate is when we generate the invoice is the tax rate we're going to use.
okay? And let me see what's next. Okay, so I would like to share screen to maybe show you like a quick sketch of what would that tax rate view for adding new taxes and
Go
editing
ahead.
look. Okay, just a second. So this is some Picasso stuff. Okay, so would that look something like this? We have input for name, parts, and labor, and also there would be this would be like some kind of tables with the check boxes so that you can select. Okay, for the states you will be able to select only one state. Okay, so if we won't have pre-populated counties, cities, or zip codes, we wouldn't have something like this. We would have some kind of add form just to input the name of counties, cities, and zip codes. So do you agree? Should it look something like this?
Yeah, so parts and labor is like probably a checkbox or like, right, like a yes or no kind of a thing.
Yes.
It either
Yeah.
applies there or not. So like it's, yeah, 0 or 1. Like so the state is probably just a drop down. You pick one state and that's it.
Yes.
Then you would enter the county or city that it applied to.
So if you have a checkbox, that means there's just one value for both of them, right?
Yeah, it's either on or off. It's either yes parts or no parts, yes labor or no labor.
Yes, but what if, how do we, is this possible to have 5% for parts and 3% for
Yeah.
labor, or is it always the same number?
I think it's the same, but we can check that. Can you make a note of that, Jason?
Yeah, depending on whether it's the same or not, we need a separate field or we can just use checkboxes. But we need a field for like tax value, yes, anyway.
Yes, right. If that's supposed to be the value, then yeah, if it can be different, I'll have to check that.
Okay.
And if it's different, this is the perfect way to do it. If it's not different, then we would just have a checkbox there.
Yeah.
The only one that you'd have multiple of would be zip codes, I think. So you could have a rate that applied to multiple zip codes.
Okay.
So just a second, is I understood this like this would be like, okay, tax rate, we put input, put parts and labor, and we check state, and we also can apply these values to some counties, cities, or zip codes, but we don't want to. If we want some different values for some different zip code, we would create a new tax rate. Is that correct? With the new name.
Yes, correct. So like even if it's a county, city, or zip code rate, it still needs to have a state picked, because when you're assigning the tax rates, like you wouldn't want to pick a county rate from the wrong state, right? So like that's why you'd still pick a state. So somehow we need to differentiate whether this is a state tax rate or whether the state is selected just so the county tax rate that this is ends up in that state.
Okay, so maybe we could do this like this checkbox, and somewhere will be noted like this is the checkbox on which this tax rate applies, and that state filter that you're talking about, we can put it inside of these fields, like filter by state, choose state, and then choose enter the counties, maybe something like that.
So it's probably more like toward the top, it would say like, what state is this tax rate for? And you pick a state. And then you would say, what kind of tax rate is this? And it's either a state, county, city, or zip code tax rate. And those would almost be like radio buttons where you get to pick one.
Yeah, okay.
And then if you pick state, you don't have to enter anything else. If you pick county, you got to add the name of the county. If you pick city, you got to add the name of the city. If you pick zip codes, you got to enter however many zip codes there are.
Okay, and also we would have like a list of tax rate that you can like all of the other tables that we have, like that pencil icon and
So we'd probably have for like the tax rate edit table, it would probably say all and show all of them, and you could type to find one, or you could pick a state and it would filter by state, and then you would have another filter for state, county, city, or zip. So I could pick a state and county and just see the county rates in that state, or I could pick a state and see all the rates in that state, or I could pick counties and see all the county rates in the country without picking a state.
I see. Okay, so for just to confirm, so before I understood that you want to export the stuff from QB just to generate the list of tax rates,
Yep.
not to actually assign them to invoices. That's a separate process which will always be manually done, correct?
As soon as the tax rate is associated to the location, the assigning the tax rates to the invoice is automatic.
There's no option. Okay, so all of it is automatic. Can somebody change that if they want to?
They could change what tax rates are associated to a location, but like once that's set, it's probably not changing. Like the only thing that would change if like a county created a new tax rate, like they didn't have one before, and now they added one. So somebody would go into the system, add that tax rate, and then pick the locations that that tax rate applied to and put that tax rate on those locations.
Yeah, but yeah, okay. So we don't need to worry about like, oh, here's 10 different rates for your location, so picks the one you want. But like,
no,
just okay.
No, it's like there's 3 rates for your location. You get all 3. There's no way to get out of them. That's just the way it is.
Okay. I managed to get.
So
into,
I'm sorry.
Yes?
I'm sorry. Just a question about this. So you're saying that tax rates are automatically populated and automatically applied to invoices. So does that mean that already created invoices should be applied? These new tax rates should be applied or not? I suppose they're no. Okay.
No, we're going. Yeah.
As soon as you hit the create invoice button, that's
It's
when
over,
the
yeah.
taxes get applied based on what's in there at that point. And now the only thing that would be different is like, let's say, we calculated 10 hours of labor, and if somebody changes it to 8 hours of labor, so the dollar amount changes. In that case, the tax needs to update.
Of course.
On that invoice.
Okay.
And so I hit save. I could go back and edit the invoice later and change the labor or something else, but the taxes calculate the way the taxes calculate.
Okay.
Yeah. What you said, Sir John, before about the invoice and the tax rates being, memorized, we can deal with that easily. I think we can just add some. We are already snapshotting data in the invoice, so we can do the same for taxes. Just have a few fields in there which will just stay, so they can change them later, but they will stay the same within the invoice row. Okay. I managed to open to restore this company file, but it's asking me for a password. So do you want to go through that now, or to actually do that some other day?
It's in the Slack. I'll put it in the Slack again. There it is.
Okay, let me try. Oh, okay, there we go. Okay, let me share my screen. You guys see that? Yep. Okay, so which part did you want me to navigate to?
All right, let me see, I can request remote control. Okay. All right, so and like, don't spend too much time learning this because it's really friggin' complicated. So like, just ask if we can do this, and it might save a shit ton of time.
Good.
So I want.
Okay, so you went into item list. Okay.
Yeah. So like, here's where like all the locations are listed as items. Like that is not the way to do this.
Yeah, definitely.
So
Okay.
all right, by type. So like here are so this is a sales tax group. So I want, let's see if I can find. Here's a sales tax item. So I don't know what this number means. I don't know if it's relevant or not.
It's just a name like for an item, basically.
So they have this. So this is basically who they write the check to. So for this particular Shamrock tax rate, it's 1.75%, and the money goes to the state of Texas.
Vendor, the vendor is like a sort of an account, right, that it goes to.
Yes. So the account is this Texas this with this description,
Okay.
and then that account gets paid to this person. So my guess is like all of these are paid to the same person. So this is a different one, different rate, different. This is probably a city or a county. I'm not familiar enough with Texas.
Okay.
Round Rock is a city, I think. So they have a city tax, but it gets paid to the state. Which, like, who it's paid to is not really so much our concern.
Yeah. Okay,
like
so
what tax rate it applies to.
looking at it, so we can use the name and maybe the description, and
Yeah,
then
so
of course the
can-
price to export that into our system.
So we'll see how your computer works here. This is a tricky process here
I know.
that we'll see if it works. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes
QuickBooks likes to
breaks
crash.
itself. Yeah. But we'll see if this works. So in Excel, we can probably break up easily the locations, and like ultimately these are the locations that we're going to import into our system. So we can break up the locations, the tax rates, the tax items, and the tax groups, and we can see like what we're kind of dealing with here on a global scale, like how many there really are, because I can't particularly tell from this view or this screen. And I don't think it can do it. I can't do anything else while it's doing this.
If you guys want to do this manually, I mean, that's fine. But I think there are automated ways I see which could be probably save you a lot of time.
All right, I'm open to the automated ways, but I think you're being optimistic. I mean, I know we can pull these out of here in an automated way, but like like once this is done,
I can use that list of XML I get from here through the web connector to just communicate with the backend API to immediately add these items into our backend that we have already.
Yes.
It's just a difference of how can I use this data. So if I have a description, name, and price here, I can generate 1,000 tax rates in the system with the same description, name, and price, and you guys can modify them after that.
And add, I guess, add description. So like the name is the name here, and then like Texas is the state abbreviation. And so I'm hoping they all have the state abbreviation in them, and we could pull that out of that field and have the state abbreviation separately, so it's a data element.
If if they have all of them have the state abbreviation, we could even immediately like map them to all states naturally.
Yep.
And so we could have then the name, description, and the price and the state for these tax rates. They would still have to select the locations, I guess, and they would still have to specify, is it for parts or labor, right? Because I don't see that here, right?
Correct.
So we
Like,
can
I don't
automate that
know-
part.
I don't know if that actually exists anywhere. Like somebody sort of just knows it, which is what they want to avoid, like spending the time to like manually do all of that. Because I think they have 4 people that are full time just manually doing this shit. It's like insane.
Yeah.
This, like, from a QuickBooks perspective, this is just all wrong. I don't
It
know
is.
who their
How much do you
accountant is.
guys know, like, about the details of QuickBooks and stuff?
And like I use it.
Yeah, but like just to know what kinds of questions I can ask you, related to it.
I mean, you can fire anything in us in QuickBooks. So, all right. So here it is in Excel. So I guess
Mhm.
the so what I guess I would look at is sorting by. So there's some shit in here that's not active that we don't want to deal with.
Mhm.
So I can't even tell you what the best way is, but let me give you a feel for like what I'm thinking. So, and like, let's see how many gazillion line items are in here. All right, so I just got rid of the non-active ones as sort of the first pass. So then where my head's at is I would say, let's look at sort by. Let's look at description. So maybe it's type we want to go by next. So like these non-inventory parts,
Yeah.
I would like probably put on a separate tab. I have no idea how many there are.
Tens of thousands. Yes, there's definitely more than.
Bigger than a breadbasket.
We're not even interested in the discount account title, right?
The what?
We're like, this is all of the, can't we filter out all of the
Hey, wait a minute,
discount?
this isn't even right.
Yeah, no, yeah. So just filter out that if you search based off G,
So
off
I'm
column
saying,
G.
yeah, no, these are like, none of these are consistent. So like this started off with parts, but like, I don't know where, like now I'm in the location. So it's location there is listed as a non-inventory part.
But if you look at all of these costs and there's 0 in all of these other columns. Scroll over past column O. I don't think there's anything else in there. So we can just filter, because what we are looking at in QuickBooks.
Yeah, you can filter cost to be, for example, larger than 0.
Yeah, but like that doesn't help.
We're looking for the sales percentage, and we found all of those with those Texas ones at the very least.
Yeah, well, so let me find. So like, here's the sales tax item. So like, I don't know how many of them there are. Does it tell me how
think
many
you
there are?
can. Let me try to.
You could do a count, but
Yeah. Is it case sensitive?
probably
Oh, I got to do the range. So what is it?
C to C.
C to
No,
C?
this one doesn't specify. This one value 2, value 3. Oh,
You need to close it.
It doesn't like that. Value and the range. What didn't I do?
Oh,
Right?
it should be a count if.
Like that?
Yeah, because you need your criteria and then you need your range. Click on it again.
yes, it's the other way around. It's the range first. Yes.
Yeah.
Are you sure? Can I put numbers in here?
I don't think you don't want to.
Yeah, that will limit the. But yeah,
Yeah.
we could
I
potentially
mean,
do.
you can go all the way out to there, but
Why isn't it returning me something?
Maybe it's case sensitive.
yeah, make that all caps too. I don't know why.
Yeah, no, I don't want help on it. I want you to frickin' do the formula. It's like not, it's pretending not to be a formula.
Yeah. Say yeah.
Is it single quotes?
Yeah, try single quotes. The fuck?
Range, criteria.
Is there any? Let me see what. To.
Try putting it in a cell other than that one there at the top of the column.
It says it's.
Put it in quotes, I guess. Like maybe it needs a, here, it probably needs
Well, it became a count again.
C to C, comma.
Surgeon, are you Googling?
It's like the cell has to equal that, right?
Yeah, that's what it's counting based off of.
So it's got to be like what's true. So it's got to be like that.
No, that's too much. All right, just filter column C based off of you can just do a sort and filter.
All right, go ahead. I'm gonna go pee up here a bit.
All right, I'm gonna need to. Amir, can I have remote control?
Oh yeah, sorry.
You're good.
Did you get it?
I don't think so. I'll request it again.
Yeah, there should be an option to like already populated fields to filter it by text field. Yeah, correctly that.
And then just go and then.
And yeah,
No, wait.
You can select there, yeah, unselect all of those.
And then just select the sales tax
Yes,
item and
yes,
sales
yes.
tax group as well.
Okay, so what does it say here? There's 1953 of which are sales tax items, it seems.
It's weird that these ones, it looks like, can you add the sales tax group too?
Yes.
Under that
Which
filter?
one is it?
I think it was under C as well.
Yes. You go
What's
there.
that? Yeah. So there's 42,000.
4,004. Four.
What is it?
We filtered the sales tax item and group, and it says there are 4,000 records.
All right, cool.
These still aren't showing the costs though, which is weird.
What,
It's here.
the percentages?
Yeah, it's not showing the percentages in column
I'm
M.
sure there's a field for it.
Also, yeah, there is price.
There it is. Okay.
Yeah, so
So
these are basically the tax rates, right?
Yeah. So that's how many we're talking about. So can you go back to QuickBooks, please?
Okay, just a small question. So these are like state dash number, and these ones, they are for counties, right, or something?
So this it looks like the North Carolina ones have North Carolina in the middle of them.
Okay,
So like it looks like Texas sucks. Like Texas is I don't know why they have so many damn taxes. But like if you excluded all the Texas ones, we could get at like how many other ones there really are. Like see if there's any patterns in the naming that we could latch onto. So like if I go in here and I go to create invoices, might not, I need to get remote control again. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to create an invoice. So I pick a customer, and the customer is not the location, right? It's just the customer works the way we work. So like there's only a handful of customers. I don't know which ones are the real ones or not. I'm just going to randomly pick them.
Okay.
Let's see. So now I put some notes in about what they use here, what they don't use here. They have a template here. Whatever template they've customized is one of those. And then the first item on the list, they pick the location. Let me see here. Let me do a little testing here. So apparently the tax rate is based on the customer. So like if I go back, let me cancel, clear. So this is a real invoice. The customer is listed as Petco. And their first item on the invoice is the location that this Petco happened to, which is stupid. But that's the way it is. The customer set this tax rate down here.
Do you want to open this?
I don't know why. So this says customer tax code non-taxable here, which is why there's no tax here. But on the invoice, they manually put in $42.
Yes. Okay, so when we'll be making invoices, in exporting them from the system to QB, we are not going to be doing stuff this way, correct?
No, we're not. This is like to try to figure out how to match up is what we're looking at here. So like I could scroll back through old invoices. I'm trying to find one that's taxable. I don't know if there's any that are. So if I go up here to customers,
Mhm.
and I search for that Petco customer, so this gets set at this level. So this is what's going to get set on our location level.
Oh, okay.
Like this doesn't make any sense to set based on the customer.
Right now, they're not using this. They're also using this in the system. You were looking for it?
They use this somehow. Like they're not using it the right way.
But this is the right way to do it, correct?
This is not the right. The right way would be to associate the tax rate to the location and have to calculate, which is the way we're going to.
Okay, okay. Just go through that with the invoice thing. Like, how would you go ahead and add a county state tax? And
So in this case, like, yeah, invoices here. In this case, what they're doing is doing it manually.
Yes, yes. How? Could you just show me like?
So this is one in Texas. Texas has all these crazy ass tax rates. So this column over here shows what gets tax added to or not. So in this case, they're calculating this 8.25% tax rate based on these three taxable items.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is just so QB has like a total, only a total tax rate.
Yep. But here, like somehow they have just manually calculated the tax and added it to the invoice.
Yeah, they added an item called tax. That's how it did it. They, as if you added a part, you know.
Right.
With its
They
price.
just added it on. So my guess is like, if I moved some of these to taxable, well, the rate here is 0, so it's never going to calculate. But like somehow they manually calculated what this tax should be and just added it as a line.
Okay, so this is the wrong way. The right way is to specify as a taxable and then select a tax from the drop down below, right?
Yeah. So what I was trying to get at was like, is there a way to extract like what rates are associated with what, like the rates are like exactly what we looked at, right? They're a name with a description and then a rate. So there's no way to know like what those rates apply to. So in this case, like if I exported a customer list, which like I don't know how I can do that. Export customer list. I don't know how long this is going to take. All right, let's try this. This isn't it, right? Is this?
Yep. It says nothing here. Okay, there are 2 books. It might be this one.
All right, it exported 1. Okay, great. So I'm sure there's a way to export all of them. So if I come down through here, I assume one of these fields is tax rate. So this is Michigan, and I assume that means state. So this Petco must be in Michigan, is my guess.
Okay, so what are you trying to look at a way that we could extract the tax rates from invoices instead?
Yes, I'm trying to see if we could pull out to match up, like to avoid. So like when we have locations in our system, tax rates in our system, the state ones are easy, right? You just associate the state ones with the state that the location is in. The rest of them, there's no way to automatically do it that I can see.
Okay, so we would have to let's just assume that they're all listed under TAX as an item, right? Which is non-taxable, which is the actual tax. If they listed all as that, then we could pull that info up, kind of reverse calculate it to see what the percentage of tax is. But there's a problem, like still, we don't know what it's for. Is it for labor, parts, both? Is it a county, city, state tax? Or, you know, that's also a problem.
Exactly.
So I think it's a very.
So my guess is we can probably figure out the labor or parts thing based on the state. So like I don't think it's different. Like in Texas, I think it's one way, and we could probably just blanket apply the settings to all the Texas rates. So Jason, can you make a note of that? Like we got to figure out what rates apply to what locations and whether they're labor, parts, or both for each of those. And so I don't know how many locations there are. In that other file, I'll let you drive. Can you go back to that other file where we looked at tax rates? And let's look at how many locations are in that list.
Do you mean the first one?
Yeah. So like, do the count that we did based on that description column having a location in it.
I'm hoping it'll show
Yeah,
now.
take those off. Yeah.
So sales tax group and sales tax item.
Yeah, to take them off. Do all for this one. And then for description.
Yeah, there's like 50K rows for all of them.
Yeah, but go over here.
Do you want to filter by description?
I want to filter anything that has location in it.
I think there are lots of rows, yes.
What makes you think that?
I think shit tons is the appropriate characterism. So it won't even return a filter to do this the right way. But like however many locations there are.
Okay.
I don't know when it's there. It starts here. So it starts at like 400. I don't think these are all active, but a lot of locations.
Yep.
All right, so there's more than 40,000.
Yep.
I don't know if that's necessarily true.
Yeah, it looks like most of them are duplicated somehow.
They
have different numbers, yes. Or maybe not, I don't know.
So let's look at QuickBooks. So let me see. There is. I don't ever report on invoices. So.
Yeah, invoices, you can't display them just like that. I also kind of noticed that. If you gotta go by, for example, customer.
There's like an invoice item report or something.
Maybe open invoices, but I think it may need to go by customer.
Transaction list of customer. There's a way to do it. I just don't. Maybe it's sales.
Do you want to list like all the
Sales
invoices?
by item. Here, this is what I want. So these are the so anything on this report that has a location is an active location for this year. So like there's other shit in here. So these are all locations.
Okay.
So I don't know. It doesn't show me how many line items there are, right?
Maybe, let me see something. Let me try to maximize. Will it? Okay. Okay. Let's see. Oh yeah. It doesn't actually seem to say that.
It doesn't give me a count.
Maybe. No, this is different. Filter. Where did I see filter? Yeah, but
It's a lot still.
Yeah.
How many active locations they have. But like out of all the, like this is how many Walgreens there are. Like on that other list we were just looking at, I think there are way more Walgreens. Right? So they're not, like if I go back to, can you go back to that Excel sheet?
it's a typo.
Shit. Did I type it wrong?
Yeah.
That helps. No, not Walgreen Road. Dumbass. All right, here we go. All right, so like this must be all the Walgreens. Right? There's a shit ton more Walgreens than the active ones that we just looked at. So I don't know that there's 38,000 locations, but the point being is it's going to be a big ass job to, well, we can ask them, hey, give us a list of the active locations and then somehow figure out what tax rates apply to them. That might have to be a manual job. And even if, like, as they invoice, even if they did it the first time and then it saved it, that would be fine too. Right? So, like, that should be, like, maybe build in if tax rates aren't set for that location to ask them, hey, this location doesn't have tax rates set. You need to set tax rates.
Yep. Okay, so some validation. Okay,
Yeah.
but this is something right down the line, so we don't have to think a lot about implementing this, you know, how we're going to go about this right now. There might be some options to automate stuff, hopefully. If not, we'll just do it.
Yeah, don't worry about matching up tax rates with locations for now, but do include the fact that if tax rates are not set for a location, we need to prompt the user to set them before they invoice.
Okay, hopefully this will also work. Yeah, it's actually one of the reasons my computer was maybe a little slower than usual, because this project was running in the back end all the time. I can do it again. Okay, so just to try to open this testing, Brian's refrigeration. So I made a company file in a test environment, of course.
Hey, before we leave the Brian's file, let me do one quick thing.
I think it's in the process of closing that.
Did
you want to do something with the company file?
I wanted to do a report before we close it, but let's see. If it closes, that's fine.
I guess we'll see. Yeah, it closed it opened the other one. Oh, So, oh, okay, there we go. So let me start up the web connector. So basically, like when we have an invoice, so this is a different thing. So I made it so that it counts all the parts and labor as two separate rows, and it just, you know, calculates the labor as one thing. That's because there needs to be some syncing and stuff between items themselves, because we rely on items to make invoices. So we'll like make a PBI for that. But basically, like what it does now is like, for example, I can enter some labor on an invoice now, some hours, and when that's saved, I go back to invoices. So I just sort of added this quickly, you know, like, and it says export invoice to QB. And this is where they'll get a prompt, like, can this web connector use, you know, this company file to do stuff?
Yep.
It's just how it works. Because,
Yeah, perfect.
and they're gonna just have to, you know, add it here, blah blah blah. I mean, I'll send you guys like a file. They have to open this, open their company file, and then like type in the password, and they're pretty much set. So the way it works is like also there's a little notification here, because the web connector basically asks for a sync. It's the one always making requests for. So I think the least time it may take up to sync stuff is like a minute, because it's like either every 5 or 10, but like I'll check if it's, you know, any smaller than that. And let's see if this invoice was actually exported. So this was like 285 total. Let's see. Oh yeah, there we go. So I exported the invoice number, the date, as well as parts and labor, but as I explained earlier, see?
Yep.
Okay, so that's basically how it's gonna go. So you're gonna have to add a web file, web connector file, link it to your company file, and we also have to actually deploy this, because this is a separate sort of a SOAP server, which we'll also have to deploy like the actual backend, you know, for the application. So I don't know if you guys want to run that on your virtual machine or something, but I can temporarily put it on like a domain I have already, so you can test it out. So any feedback on this so far?
No, that looks good. I guess we want to make sure you couldn't invoice, like export the same invoice. Like if I exported the same invoice, I'd want it to update the invoice I already exported.
Yes, yes.
So like, I guess it would be by invoice number.
Yes, I think there should be an option for that, yes.
And then can we do multiple invoices at once right now, or just one invoice at a time? And even if just clicking that button sends the request to the web config?
Well, I was sort of winging this, you know, we didn't even go through any, you know, discussions of how we're gonna do this. I just put a button here. Yeah, it's like a single row thing. Of course, if you went to this table and clicked like 5 times, that would you know, export 5 invoices.
Yeah.
But do you want some sort of select, like on a list or something? Yeah, that could be done.
Okay.
Do you guys want that done, or like is it just a thing, you know, to hack?
Don't do it yet, but we probably will do it. And we probably want to add location next to customer as a column.
Okay,
on
so
this invoices page.
I'm going to basically wrap it up with this invoice stuff. I'm gonna deploy the server and the test things. I'm gonna send you guys a couple of files so you can test it out. And I don't know when, either Friday or on Monday, when we want to plan what we want to do next for this.
So the tax stuff is what I need to estimate. So to implement all this tax stuff and reporting we're talking about, that's what we need to get a feel.
Yeah. Sirjan and
Do you
me.
want, do you want us to make, because you mentioned you want detailed PBIs, do you want me to make detailed PBIs and estimate hours and then send you the link in backlog, or do you just want like TXT report how many hours it would take?
I think we should create the PBIs because we need to get that granular. Like we're going to get approval to do this. So we might as well get a head start on creating the PBIs. And then that will, hopefully that uncovers, like as you go through it, it'll uncover like, oh yeah, we need to make sure we have, you know, this unit test in place. Oh yeah, we need to make sure we have this, you know, back end work done here. Oh yeah, there's going to be some front end work here. Like go through and estimate as detailed as we can get. Like we don't want to underestimate this. I don't want it to be like, oh, I'm not sure. Let's put 20 hours down. It's really 2 hours. Like, you know, it is an estimate, but as realistic as we could get it, breaking it down into all the specific parts, you know, so we're taking this concept and then breaking it down into, all right, what entities do we need? You know, what are the new components that we need to have in here? How are we going to implement it? That's what we need.
Okay, so Emir and I will have to discuss about those specific things. So maybe by tomorrow, by the end of the day, is that okay? Or
Yes,
okay,
that would be great.
All right. Well, my estimate on the time spent here was wrong, but like,
Well,
yeah.
that's good. I think we got a lot done, so that was good, right?
Yeah, I also agree. Just like I thought it's gonna be 30 minutes. I hope any of you, didn't mess up your schedule because of it or anything. I thought you said you have time, but still. Like,
Yeah, today was a good day for this. Another day might not have been, but this worked out well. So yeah, so get us that over. If you have any other questions, I mean, let us know. So like, I think as we get to the end here, like we're gonna have to do with the end of. So the way this project is gonna go is like version 1, we're trying to launch and get them using it, and then the idea is we roll right into version 2 and 3 and 4. So as we get to the end, what I mean is the end of version 1. We're probably going to have to do more jumping on and going through it because like the details that we're going to tweak are going to be finer details. And so we do want to run through things. We do want to, you know, kind of tune them up. We are going to want to try to launch this as soon as possible, but we need this tax thing to be able to do it. We figured out. So that's where we're at. Awesome.
okay.
All right. So don't hesitate. Anytime you guys have any questions and like jumping on a screen share deal like this, like if we need to do it, like don't hesitate to ask.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks. Have a great day. See you.
Have a nice
thank you.
day.
You too.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.